guys, welcome back to another author interview. Today we have Miss Arilia Winn. Did I pronounce your name right, Arilia?
Yes, you did. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
absolutely. Okay, and you're here today to talk about your new book of many, because you have several books that you've written. Shut Up and Let Me Cry. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about the title and the cover, and then we can get into the specifics.
Yeah, so Shut Up and Let Me Cry was written more so for my therapist friends, my healers, my service providers, and really just anyone who's ever felt like saying that phrase, like, can I just cry? Can I just not be like flooded with words of encouragement? Can I not be flooded with hugs and all of those things that people like to do when we're grieving? Especially cliches. And so that's kind of the subtitle, is breaking free from cliches and holding space for real healing. So those of us that are in the healing realm and in those spaces, we know that crying is a emotional release that leads to healing. We just need to let it go. Some of us express our emotions through art and creativity. And some of us, we just are crybabies. We just need to cry it out, and then we're going to get it together and we're going to move forward. But this, the cover is just, a woman, because they say women are more emotional. So she's really just kind of a reflection of myself. And in it, and I share perspectives from being on both ends of the spectrum, where I'm saying, I was that person who would throw out cliches to help friends. And then I was also the person receiving cliches encouragement where it just wasn't helpful for me in that time. And so I'm addressing about 30 different cliches. And just cliches to me are very shallow. And as someone who is a relational person who would prefer a deeper connection with those who are offering me advice, those who are comforting me during these hard times, sometimes, like, that surface level cliche is not enough. And so I'm offering people to, like, let's look at this cliche. Let's offer more words than just this something shallow. And so I go into different things like, everything happens for a reason, or trust the process. These different things on the surface are well meaning, but they can be dismissive when shared at the wrong time. They beg for more words, because trust the process. What's the process exactly that I'm trusting, and why should I trust it? And how long is this process? When does it end? And so those things. And so it's like, we need to be mindful when we're offering advice. And so that's what this book is about. It's really just inviting, us in the healing space to go deeper and to be mindful when working with someone who's grieving.
Yeah. And as a crier, I cry all the time. I love crying. It's so therapeutic. So when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, Aiden, shut up and let me cry. Hey, I just want to cry. Because a lot of times people do just want a shoulder, someone to listen instead of just offering. And it's just so funny how you say the cliches, like trust the process. What is the process, ma'am? I want to know more. So I think that's amazing. Okay, so let's just learn a little bit about you, Miss Winn. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? And yeah, we'll go from
Sure.
there.
Yeah. So what's up? My name is Arilia Winn. I go by Miss Winn on social media. I'm an author and I'm also a publisher. I've published, that book is my 26th book that I've published. But as a whole, as a publisher, I've published over 55 different books for others. And that's just what I plan to do for the rest of my life, is to continue to make an impact in the book publishing world through my own writing and through helping others tell their stories. I say, my purpose is to uplift others through storytelling while I'm sharing my story and helping others to share theirs. And so I love it. My background is in mental health. I studied marriage and family therapy for 4 years before I had to focus on my own mental wellness. And so I'm just at a place now in my career, in my writing and publishing, where I'm combining the two. I'm really focused on working with those who are mindful writers, and helping them make an impact through telling their stories, as I do the same with mine.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. And I think it's so amazing when people have studied like what they're writing about before, because writing is creative. Some people do it creatively, but when you really know what you're talking about, you bring so much to that genre, just to that topic. So that's amazing. And congratulations, you are definitely an inspiration. When I looked at all your social media, I was like, oh my God, this lady is amazing. Oh, yeah. So we're definitely happy to have you here. So book specific questions. Okay. So now going into specifically Shut Up and Let Me Cry. So whatever you kind of want to tell us about that, you don't have to answer.
Okay. Well, let's see. This book, as I said, it was kind of born from just my own experience of, I want to say, almost being disappointed in healers and just therapists that I've experienced, that I've come in contact with. And this isn't like, because I'm very aware that we say these things and it's well-intentioned, right? I can give you even some of the cliches that I address. And I know this is an attack at people for their cliches. Some people say time heals all wounds. Again, trust the process. Good things come to those who wait. I'm offering a different perspective. So one of the things that I learned while studying to be a marriage and family therapist is, let people be the professional of their life. People are the professional of their life. As an outsider, whether you're a friend, a healer, therapist, service provider, is to offer a different perspective. That's what I was taught. And so this book really is just that. Like, let me offer a different perspective to Time Heals All Wounds, because for some people it does not. Like, time really just can make it worse depending on your mental health, right? For some people, they want the time to end. And so that's why we have suicide. Like we don't live in a perfect world. There are gray areas. And so to say things like time heals all wounds, I remember I was in a situation where it was just like time, growing up in the Black Baptist church, we would always say, thank God for another day. And sometimes I'd be like, oh, like, God, I'm still here. Like, I'm still going through this same thing. Like, time wasn't healing nothing. Right. And it wasn't until I had to put in the work. And so I addressed that. Like, let's get deeper. Like, let's really get deeper with some of these things and be straightforward and say what it is. Like, let's say the truth. Right. We can say some of these things. Another one is, fake it till you make it. Really? No. Like, how about you learn? How about you do something and then make it? Faking it, you're just going to be exposed, right? I think that also goes against what we try to tell people is like, be authentic. Okay, well, I can't be authentic if I'm faking it till I make it. And so it's just offering a different perspective to some of these things. And it might be, I could hear people saying, really, you're being a devil's advocate or you're being negative. No, I'm standing in my profession, even though I did not get a degree. I did not get a master's in this. I'm standing in my profession and I'm offering a different perspective and saying, maybe what you should say is not that. Like, maybe you shouldn't really say anything, to be honest. Like, maybe you should just shut up, let them cry, and maybe even let yourself cry. Because another thing is, like, we try to encourage ourselves, we try to push through. Give yourself a moment to cry. Don't run from your emotions. And so really, this is actually part one. The second part is that, like, let's get into that emotional stuff. Let's get a little bit deeper. Now that we got past, the shutting up and let me cry, let's explore our emotions more. And so this really is the first book of, I don't know, I feel like series could be the word, but I don't want to tie myself down to that. But there is another part coming where we can get even deeper together with that.
Yeah, I love that. As I always say in my videos, I'm a teacher. And I teach 8th grade. So I tell my kids all the time, like, crying is natural. You have to, you have several emotions and you have to honor them. If people don't learn how to manage their emotions, I feel like that's when people explode. So yes, shutting up, letting people cry, that's needed. And then I like that you're offering a duality. Like, I think we live in a time where people can put anything on social media. And for some people, especially kids, if they see that, they might take that idea and think that's the end all be all. But I like that you're offering an alternative perspective to this because, I mean, like you said, time heals all. What do we do in that time? Can we have a what are we doing in that time while we're waiting for it to heal all wounds? And I remember I had a coworker when I was working at Macy's, and she had lost her husband, and she kind of offered that other perspective when people said it would always get better, but it didn't. It did not get better. Things actually got progressively worse. So I think what you're doing is shedding a light on the reality, and I do like how you're kind of chunking. You have in one book, because sometimes I've been in therapy, and I think sometimes with therapy, it's a fine line of kind of allowing people to discover their patterns instead of just like dumping all like this is like textbook, like what you guys learn. I think for people who are not trained in that, arriving to that conclusion of the problem on the first session of therapy could be a lot. So I think I like how you're breaking it up into different books to let people progressively, heal, basically. It's not just a one, session thing. So I like that. So I would say like, let's see. In your process of writing this, did you do like an outline or like, was it just, how did you come up with completing the book, basically?
Yeah, I started with an outline. It all started, I want to say I had just moved into the apartment I'm in now. And what really kicked it off, which I love my friends and they know I love them down. And I've told this story over and over and over and over, and I will continue to tell it. But I moved into my apartment on day 3. I had a flood in my kitchen. My faucet popped off and my kitchen flooded. It started to flood into my living room. I live on the 3rd floor, so it also leaked into my downstairs neighbor's apartment. They didn't speak a lick of English. So when I say I was frantic, baby, I was frantic, because what I found out is that my apartment for me means security. It means stability. After living with family and other people for a while, like, so for my apartment to flood, that meant that my security and my stability was at risk. Also, it also seemed like, to myself anyways, that, oh my God, I'm going to have this big outstanding bill, because what if my neighbors want me to pay for the things that were damaged? What if the apartment, they were saying at first, oh, it's a broken pipe, which it wasn't a broken pipe. It was just something came unhooked and they just hooked it back together. But at the time, I was frantic. And because I'm in a group of encouragers and healers and service providers, it was trust the process. It's going to be okay. This is a test for you. And I'm like, the hell are you talking about? Like, why would I need to be tested right now? And what's the freaking process here? Like, what are you serious? And at the time I was just like, I just told them, hey, I just need space. Like, I just need space to come unraveled. As someone who always keeps it together, it was just like, man. And then I had another girlfriend. She was like, girl, she was trying to tell me, we were talking about our goals and our dreams. At this time, she was my accountability partner. And so I was telling her about the situation, and she was like trying to move past that and talk about our goals for the week. And I felt like, oh my gosh, you're dismissing this experience, because to them, it wasn't a big deal. Okay, so your kitchen flooded, they turn off the water, you're okay. But I didn't feel that way in that time. So I was like, you know what? What I really wanted to say to them was like, shut up and let me cry. But of course, that's rude. You can't really tell your friends like to shut up. People would think that, that's not the nicest way to talk to your friends. And so I didn't say that, but I came up with the title for the book at that time, and I had to outline it. And I said, you know what? I love them down, and I'm so grateful for their friendship and for their encouraging spirit and for them wanting to help me. But like, there are cliches that we throw out, especially with our friends, especially with people that we want to help, because we want to solve their problem. And sometimes the best thing that we can do for others is to just sit with them, to be quiet, to listen to them, because a lot of times when we're going through it, we just want to be heard. And so it felt like I was not being heard. And that was something that I was telling myself, like, damn, no one is listening to me. No one is letting me express my feelings to them. And so it was like, okay, let me look at the different cliches. There's about 30 cliches that I go over in the book. And let me write a different perspective for each one. So I listed out the cliches first that I wanted to address. And then I just started coming up with my own like you said, alternate perspective to that cliches. But my book also is broken up into different parts, and each thing I give a takeaway. So for example, in the first part, I'm talking about the anatomy of a cliche. I'm talking about unmasking the myths that we live by. I'm talking about the shift where we're learning to sit with our emotions. And then I go over like kind of a recap. And then the second part, I'm talking about like, this is a different way to respond, right? And then how do we navigate vulnerability in relationships? If we struggle with being vulnerable, it's going to be hard for us to deal with somebody else's vulnerability. And so it's really challenging others to do their own work, especially as a therapist, because we can only offer advice from our own experiences. And so if we haven't healed in some ways, being uncomfortable with other people who are uncomfortable, like if you're struggling with your own discomfort, of course you're going to want to tell me, oh girl, it's going to be okay, time's going to heal everything. What the hell? No, it's like, oh, okay. So it's like, oh, okay, like maybe it's because you haven't done the work to deal with your own emotions. So me being emotional, me crying, me being upset over this flood that happened in my kitchen is triggering you, and you haven't even given yourself space to deal with your own baggage and stuff that you have going on. So of course it's going to be hard for you to deal with mine. And so that's also kind of what might come up in the next book is, hey, as healers, service providers, we have to do the work within ourselves as well before we start offering advice, because cliches are not enough. I'm like, cliches are not enough when we're really wanting to help people to be better. And so that's kind of like, to answer your question, yes, I came up with an outline. It was inspired by, my experience with my friends. And I'm very passionate about this book. Out of like the 26 books that I've done, this is the first one where I'm like being really authentic in myself and, sharing what it's like to be on both ends of the spectrum, the one giving advice and the one receiving it.
Yeah, I think that's amazing that you have that and you can offer it, because I think it's timeless, but I feel like it's on time right now because a lot of people are. I mean, like I said, we have the cliches, the posts, the memes of, and I remember when I was in therapy, my therapist told me, she was like, I think it was something like the fake it till you make it. She was like, that's not true. Like that's not how, no, I can't remember. It was a while ago when I was in therapy, but she definitely brought up a cliche and she was like, that's not true. And I was like, what do you mean? But yeah, so I think this is going to help a lot of people, especially people who are not in tune with their emotionals, or they're like the friend. I have a friend that's like, she doesn't know how to deal with like, if one of us starts crying, like she's just very stoic and just like, oh, you'll be okay. But I think this book will kind of help her to see like different perspectives of like, oh, you're right, I should probably, instead of just throwing out a cliche quote, actually listen, let them cry, unpack a little bit. I don't think you have to be a therapist, to be a good friend to your, friend. But yeah, definitely moving away from, because sometimes when people throw out a cliche quote like that, it's almost it's dismissive. I feel a little dismissed in the sense like, you're not really listening to me, like, yeah, I think this will be great. So do you have any advice for people who may want to start writing, specifically like in the nonfiction genre? Like if they want to get into and they have a story or they feel like they can help other people, what kind of advice would you give to them to start?
Yeah, specifically for nonfiction is kind of what you said earlier. Make sure you know what you're talking about. Like, don't just say, oh, because finance is such a popular topic, especially on social media, or it's trending. This is what I'm going to talk about, but I don't have any experience in this really. Like, I don't like, no, talk about what you know. Talk about what you're passionate about. Obviously, this is something, well, we can talk for hours about this book because it comes from my experience. It comes from my education. It comes from what I know through academia and just through life. And so I would say definitely talk about something that you know, but also to like plan for the long game, right? Because as you grow, your writing is also going to change. Also, when it comes to book publishing and just being an author in general, your first book might not take off. Like, in even like my 26th book, I think I had 3 pre-orders, which is not a lot compared to some of the authors that I work with who've had 100 plus pre-order sales. And so it might not go as you want it to go. But here's the thing with books, is they last forever. And so you might be thinking, man, like, I really want to tell this story. I really want to do this, but I don't know a lot about book publishing. Just write the story, especially if it's a topic that you know about and you know you are passionate about. Write the story, write the book, and then like let it, and then learn. Like, you don't have to do everything all at once. You can learn as you go. I think a lot of new authors are like bombarded with information about self-publishing, hybrid publishing, traditional publishing, all of the things. There's so much information, especially if you're in different Facebook groups, like all of the horrors, the things to watch out for. And it's a lot of negative stuff online about just anything. I mean, it's hardly, I hardly see very much positive stuff about book publishing and different Facebook groups. So, it's just, I would say write it out. That's how you start. You get started by just writing it. Think later. Right now, think later. Once you get the story written, then take the next step, which would be editing. And so that's my advice for new writers who are wanting to get in the nonfiction space. Also, with nonfiction, it gives you an opportunity possibly in the future to really make that thing your mission. So mental wellness has always been my mission for a long time. I worked with victims of domestic violence and sexual assault around 2011 to 2014-15. Went to school to become a marriage and family therapist. So this is something that I've been doing. So what I'm getting at is it could give you a platform to speak about the things that are meaningful to you. It can become your mission and vision. So therefore, you're not just selling your book. You're not just talking about your book, but you're talking about something that people can relate to. And then your book is just an extension of you. So for example, my plan with this is let's start talking about emotional health. Let's start talking about healing journey, especially as authors. So I also have a book called Affirmations for Authors because of the negativity within the book publishing realm, and a lot of it is mindset. But for this particular book, it's my plan is to let's talk about emotional healing. Let's talk about mental wellness, and let's talk about us service providers, us healers, us therapists, us are those who, our friends always come to us for advice, or even if our friends don't come to us for advice, how do we be trauma informed? How do I help, my neighbor, my friend, the person around the street, if I see someone crying? One of the things that I loved and I reflect on in my daily life is, who were the people that really had impact on me during my healing journey, and what was it that they did? What they did was hold my hand and let me cry. They gave me space to cry, and they gave me space to talk, and they listened, and they asked questions. One of the best questions that you can ask someone is, hey, maybe not necessarily what do you need or what can I do for you? Because sometimes when someone is in kind of an emotional wreck, they don't know what it is that they need. oftentimes it's just silence. Silence can, bring about so much thought and other things that words just can't do. And so for me, like, my plan really is to amplify the messages that's within this book. And so as a nonfiction writer, that's something that you can look forward to. Is, okay, this book is just an extension of you. When you're sharing your messages about what is in the book, it becomes easier to sell. You're not just up on Facebook or wherever, buy my book, buy my book. No, you're giving the message, and then you're saying, oh, by the way, this is in my book if you want to learn more. And so, by the way, this is in my book if you want to learn more about emotional healing, and being a help to others.
It becomes a shameless plug, like, oh, by the way, you can click the link. And I think, and I'm a person who I really think that, anyone can write a book. I really do believe that. Now, you can tell the people who are, I was made for this versus, but I really think everyone should at least try. I know as a reading teacher, I have Miss Sharp, I don't like reading. Like, okay, that's fine. It's fine. But, for those who ever, have that in them that I want to write a book, especially in 2025, it's super, super possible, to do that. So, yeah. Okay. Well, I honestly think it's time for our trivia. Yes, it absolutely is. So let's go ahead. It's basically going to be like, oh, would you rather? So let's see. We're going to have you pick a number 1 through 4.
Let's do 4.
Okay, 4. Oh, yay. Because everybody usually picks 3. Okay. And this is a good one. I like this. So it says, would you rather be stuck in your book setting? Now, this is nonfiction. Would you rather be stuck? No, sorry, fiction. Would you rather be stuck in your book setting for a year or hang out with your villain for a day?
I would rather hang out with my villain for a day. And this is in reference to a book that I wrote with my daughter called, let's see this one, Heartache in the Heartland, a Valentine's Day mystery. So we published this one last year. And basically the villain is really just, so it also ties back into my nonfiction book. The villain is just a person, or a character rather, who is struggling with their emotions. And so they can't experience love, or at least they feel like they can't experience love. And so the encourager in me would love to just hold their hand and let them cry and help them that day, just be a presence in their life. And so that's what I would rather do. Yeah.
That is so cute. And what's the name of that book? It's super cute. I want to.
It's called Heartache in the Heartland. This is what it looks
Heartache in the Heartland. Oh, that's so cute.
The Mystery by Arilia Winn and Arilia Winn. Gia's my 10-year-old
daughter. That's so cute. Okay, well that's interesting. And I think previously when we had an author come up here, she said the villain for a day as well. So interesting. So what is next for you, Miss Arilia Winn? What do you have in store for us?
Yeah, so I actually have a podcast coming out. It launches April 14th. And I will have episodes dropping every Monday through the end of May, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I'm super excited about that. Like I said, for me, I'm really big on that. And for 7 years, I've had my own book publishing company, Winn Publications, where I've really focused mainly on putting authors first. And I love that. I will continue to work with authors. But at this point in my life, I'm making a shift where I'm putting myself first and my own creativity first. And of course, integrating authors and things like that with me. But man, I really couldn't escape talking about mental health and wellness and just kind of bringing them together. And so I'm looking forward to sharing this podcast and continuing to write books. We have another book dropping in May, my daughter and I, and it is it's going to be a special holiday, a made-up holiday. So my birthday is May 29th, and so we'll be talking about that. And so these books are, it's a holiday series. So it's a holiday world series. And so this will be the next book in the series where we're talking about, you know, myself as the main character in the book, and my daughter is a character in the book as well. We've done a lot of moving and traveling, and so you'll get to see that in the book. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
That is super cute. Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
So you have, okay, podcast, books. This is a lot. We'll definitely have all of your handles in the description box. But what is your handle for social media?
Yeah, so you can find me at Miss Winn _ MISSWINN on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook it's the THEE Miss Winn _ and that's where you can find me, misswinn.com, MISSWINN.com, and winnpublications.com. You can keep up with me there. You can add me on LinkedIn. I'm hardly active there, but I'm there as well.
That is amazing. Well, we definitely thank you for stopping by, Jess and Prose. Guys, Shut Up and Let Me Cry. It just released, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just dropped. So make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. Is it available like everywhere?
It's available right now on Amazon, but maybe by the time this comes out, it'll be available everywhere. Yes.
Okay, amazing. Well, we definitely thank you once again for stopping by. Come back anytime. And yeah, thank you for coming by. We will see you guys in the next video of author interviews. Thank you so much, Ms. Winn.